Hola y bienvenidos a Elemental Codes Language School. Me llamo José y soy el lingüista barbudo. Y en esta lección solo vamos a hablar sobre los números 0 a 10. Y puedes encontrar esta lección y otros recursos en nuestro sitio de web. Y vamos a añadir más recursos cuando, cuando yo tengo tiempo. Pero puedes encontrar esta lección y otros recursos en nuestro sitio de web que es www.elementocode.com. All right, so good morning, hello, or good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. My name is Joseph, and I am the Bearded Linguist, and this is Elemental Codes Language School, and we're going over lesson 2, which is numbers 0 to 10. And you can find this lesson and other resources on our website, which is www.elementalcodes.com. And I'm still waking up, even though I've had 3 cups of coffee. Uh, but it's been I wouldn't say interesting. It's been an interestingly difficult weekend, but um, I won't get into it here. But we're gonna get started, and in the first video, I went over all these lessons. I went over numbers 0 through 10, math terminology, at least basic math, not anything advanced, not like trigonometry or anything like that. But went over numbers, 11 through 1000, not all of them obviously, because that would take forever, but just kind of like the main ones and how to create numbers. So if you don't remember this, we're going to break all these up and go over smaller lessons. So, just if you don't want to watch the entire video or listen to it or whatever you want to do, you can always just wait for the lesson to come out and we'll go over this specific lesson, this specific lesson. All right. So we also went over numbers 1001 to 1 billion. All right. And then at the end of this, I will have a quiz for you to kind of test your knowledge. And it's not going to be anything too horrific. It's just going to be a simple quiz. And we'll try to include everything as much as possible. All right. So let's get started with los números 0 a 10. Okay, so that's numbers. So with the nouns, I want to include the article. This is a definite article, and it means the numbers, literally, and it has to match. And we'll go over that in a later lesson where we talk about the indefinite and definite articles because they have to match. And if you're not aware, I think I went over this in one of the beginning lessons. I could be wrong, but anyways, with the articles, they have to match in agreement with gender. And in Spanish, there's 2 genders. Well, there's technically 3. The third one is not seen as much. It's a neutral gender, but there's mostly masculine and feminine, and then masculine plural and feminine plural. This right here is masculine plural, and it has to agree with numeros, which has an S on the end. It's the numbers. Okay. So we'll go over that in a little bit later lesson when we talk about nouns. And 0 a 10, so a in this case represents 2 in English, so 0 to 10, okay? So we're gonna just go over 0 through 10, and I'm gonna go over certain pronunciation before we get started. So in most of Central South America, Caribbean, where Spanish is spoken, this is pronounced as cero, okay? Cero. But in Spain, it's pronounced more with a TH sound. I think I went over this in one of the beginning videos with pronunciation, where if a C comes before an E or a C comes before an I, in the middle of Spain, near Madrid, they will pronounce this as a TH sound. So this will be cero. All right, so Central South America, other countries, cero, and then Spain, cero. All right, cinco, cinco. All right, so hopefully that will help. We'll get into more of the dialectical variations as we progress, but just to kind of let you know ahead of time so that it's a reminder later on. and it's not something that you just hear once. I'm going to try to repeat some of the stuff so that you can, lock it into your brain, because repetition is the key to, like, not just repeating something, not just like, doing vocabulary, but like repeating it in a full-fledged sentence so that like you can see the context and see how it's used and stuff like that. And so certain things like that will come up over and over again so that it'll be just a reminder rather than something you only hear once and never hear it again. And then, maybe you're talking to somebody from Madrid and they're like cero, and you're like, what's, it sounds like zero, but why are you saying it like that? You know what I'm saying? All right. So we got zero, which is cero. We have one, which is uno. And I'm gonna pronounce these like with emphasis rather than I'll tell you how they're pronounced, at the end, but I'm gonna emphasize them so that you hear the different vowels and the consonants and stuff like that. But I will kind of like give you a hint on how to pronounce words in Spanish. I've already done so, I think, in the beginning videos, but I'll do it again where um, you don't really draw it out as much as you do English words. So, all right, so cero, uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez. All right, so 0, 0, 1, uno, dos, two. Ah, this is why it's so hard to do videos, because my brain doesn't work. Yeah, at night it works, but then my family's home and it's hard to record. But all right, anyways, 2 is dos, 3 is tres, 4 is cuatro, 5 is cinco, 6 is seis, 7 is siete, 8 is ocho, 9 is nueve, and then 10 is diez. All right, so there you have 0 through 10. And to kind of like say it in a normal Spanish, pronunciation would be cero, uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, seis, siete, ocho, nueve, diez. All right. And 10 and days are very similar, so it's really kind of tricky for some people, it's for me at least. It's tricky to say 10 days, which would be 10 días. 10 días. Okay. So to say it like really fast, it's really hard. It's like almost like a tongue twister. So, all right. So, that was 0 through 10, and I'll try to do the other lessons as well to kind of get them done and ready to be posted. But these are some tips for practicing. I'm going to try to do this in the beginning to kind of give you ways of learning, because if you just use this, you're not going to necessarily learn as well as if you kind of immerse yourself in the language. So tips for learning would be to read books or articles in Spanish out loud. And if you don't know how to pronounce words, go back to the first lesson and I kind of go over that. And I'm also going to go over books that I have. I have a lot of books, and I'm going to maybe highlight a paragraph or something, or maybe something that's interesting, and like read it to you out loud. think I'm going to try to use in this specific platform. I'm going to try to use um, bilingual books, ones that have English on one side and Spanish on the other. You can tend to get those fairly easily, especially for Spanish. And other languages are a little bit more difficult, but I have things that I use that you can find pretty easily. So one of them is and you may not believe in this or whatever. It is a good academic tool. It is a good academic tool, which I like to use is the Bible or religious books, because they tend to be translated more often because it's such a vital part of a lot of people's lives. So they want to get their religious views, you know. So it does help you with the vocabulary and word structure and sentences, especially if you read it out loud and when you get to know it. So I tend to buy multilingual Bibles. I have apps that have multilingual Bibles, and can't go without a phone call. And I even try to put it on silent, not vibrate, but it is what it is. All right, so read books and articles in Spanish and read it out loud. Read it in an out loud voice. All right, so get a journal or notebook and write down words you don't know, or even write down sentences. Write down complete sentences and kind of break it down, and that way you can see the sentence structure. That's maybe a little bit more advanced, but it's definitely a good idea, especially if the sentences are in like everyday speech. It's definitely a good idea to write it down and to say it while you're writing it. That way you're using more than one sense. Your five senses. All right, so get a journal, write down, and then write down words you don't know. Look them up and say them out loud. You can even look them up on SpanishDictionary.com or Word Reference, and it will tell you how to pronounce the word. You can even use Google Translate, although it's not entirely accurate. You can actually listen to a phrase being said. All right. Watch TV shows or watch Netflix. And so what I usually do is I'll put it in English if I haven't seen it before, and I'll watch it in English with Spanish subtitles. And it's really hard to pay attention to the subtitles, especially if you're watching it in English. But if you do this multiple times and you're focused on learning, like actually reading the subtitles and kind of like slowing down the film. The other thing is like pausing it all the time. To read the subtitles is very difficult, so you have to get up to a kind of a level where you can read the subtitle without having to pause it. All right, read it. So watch movies or shows in English with Spanish subtitles, in Spanish with English subtitles, and then in Spanish with Spanish subtitles. So what you'll notice is that there are a lot of movies where the Spanish subtitles do not line up with what is being spoken because they're trying to line up what's being said in a different way with the way that the mouth is moving, so it somewhat looks like the person is actually talking the other language, and so they don't always line up, but you'll definitely learn. All right, and then you can take notes and kind of look at the way that things are phrased, the sentence structure, stuff like that. So definitely a good tool to use. I wouldn't recommend putting your device in Spanish until you get up to a higher level, because then you may have issues trying to get it out. Listen to podcasts and books. You can listen to lessons that like books. Some of the lessons I'm not very excited for. I don't know. I don't really like some of the lessons because it's just like a vocabulary where they're saying a word in English and then saying it in Spanish or whatever. So, and it's really good to listen to a book for example, one of the other books I use is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, because it's an older book and it's been translated into several different languages. So you can listen to it on Audible you can listen to it in English, and then you can listen to it in Spanish. I think they have also Portuguese and French and Italian. I don't know if they have any other languages. I haven't really looked, but it's a good thing to do is to listen to books that are translated more often, and you can listen to the book so that you know what's in the book, and then listen to the language that you're trying to learn. All right, so set aside time every day to study. This doesn't have to be a long amount of time. It could be just 20 minutes. Yeah, at least you're doing something, okay? So as long as you set aside time, you may even end up studying for longer than 20 minutes if that's what you have set as your time, but kind of create your schedule so that you can study. It's a good thing to do. All right. You can even create your own quizzes. So what you do is you come up with words that you want to learn in your target language, and then you create a quiz. And so like you'll have like on the left side of the quiz, you'll have the English, and then you kind of like set it aside, and then you come back to it when you're done doing whatever it is that you are doing. 20 minutes later, you come back and you try to translate it and make sure that you have the answers and that you know that it's correct, okay? Use flashcards if that helps. I've got flashcards. I don't tend to use them that much. Um, I like to read stuff and read out loud. I like to listen to stuff. I like to watch movies. That kind of stuff is a little bit more interesting for me. But I do have 1,001 flashcards for Spanish, like right behind me. So, and I've looked at them, and you're always going to learn. So keep learning. This is another one is making friends on social media or making friends where you live who speak the language, who are native, especially if they don't speak your native language. It's good because then in order to communicate with them, you're kind of forced to learn the language. This is actually what helped me out is working with people that only spoke Spanish. And there's one guy that kind of spoke broken English, but not a whole lot. Teaching someone who wants to learn English is a good way of learning Spanish because then you kind of figure out how your language is actually, you know, how it's structured, and you learn a lot of stuff about your own language teaching somebody else your language, and it helps with explanations to a person that whose native language is Spanish. It's good to try to practice that. So you teach them English and they would teach you Spanish. So you kind of like trade. It's like a language exchange. And there's even Facebook groups where you can exchange a language. Um, so join Facebook. There you go. Join Facebook groups and subscribe to Spanish YouTube channels or Rumble channels or whatever, and kind of just listen to the spoken form. Get books in Spanish on topics that you love to learn. So this is a good one. So if you like to learn about whatever, I don't know, medical stuff, survival stuff, religious stuff, I mentioned that, marriage stuff, like I don't know, whatever you like to learn about, try to find books in that on that topic in your target language. So in this case, Spanish. So I have a lot of medical books that are in Spanish. I have a medical book that's in French. And so it's really something that I enjoy to do, which is learning. Um, and you can even listen to books or watch videos and stuff like that in your target language. And then just enjoy the process. Don't make it a chore. Make it something that's fun. Make it something that you want to do so that it doesn't feel like it's a burden. So those are tips for practicing, and hopefully you got something out of this. I was trying to keep this as short as possible, although, I like to talk and I mess up stuff a lot. So, but hopefully this helps, and if it does, go ahead and subscribe to our website, which was www.elementalcodes.com, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Rumble channel and our Facebook, all of our social media, and I'll try to be more consistent with posting. I'm trying to get stuff like stocked up so that I can consistently post without having to necessarily spend a lot of time creating videos because a lot I have a normal job. I actually have a landscaping business, so it's kind of sporadic. Like right now, it's winter here. It's about 20 degrees outside, which is 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is -6 degrees Celsius. And so it's not very fun to work outside when it's this cold. And it did snow earlier this week. It's kind of melting, but today it's not going to melt that much because it's 20 degrees out. But there's a lot of times throughout the season where I'm trying to get that work done. So I don't necessarily have time to stop and to do videos every morning, but I figure if I can get some videos like stocked up that I can probably try to get at least have a video to post every week. That way it's more consistent. And so hopefully it works out. It's been very challenging because there's a lot going on. I have a lot going on, and there's been some interesting events that have happened this year. 2025 has been kicking me. So, all right, so hopefully this helped, and hopefully you have a great day and keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video. Hasta luego. Ciao, ciao.